So come take a walk with me to the turn of the decade. The year is 2010, and the internet is beginning to exit its weird, edgy teenage phase and become developed into the more social media driven beast that it is today. And you started seeing websites that were at one point more so niche become super mainstream. Websites like Reddit, websites like YouTube, and even giants of today like Facebook and Twitter. Going onto these socially driven websites which connected millions upon millions of people became a part of everyone's day-to-day life at this point. It made it easier than ever for these viral trends or fads to sort of come into the mainstream. In the last episode of NETROSPECTIVE, we talked about the Harlem Shake craze, a dance craze that became viral, which was pretty much exclusive only to the realm of YouTube. But in today's video, we're going to be looking at an internet trend that took over almost every social networking platform. This has got to be arguably one of the biggest fads to ever hit the internet. Today we're going to be talking about the history of planking. So before we get into the real meat and potatoes of this video and really talk about how planking spread and all of that nonsense, let's just get a firm established definition of what planking really is. The art of planking is to lay horizontally across any object or the ground with their arms by their sides, aiming to occur in daring situations or a brotherly display of core strength. So basically go into any public area and lie flat, and that's planking. But the story behind this is just so much deeper, and let's just start from the beginning. The story of planking starts all the way back in 2007 with two kids from the United Kingdom, 15-year-old Gary Clarkson and 12-year-old Christian Langdon. These two had made it a hobby to lie flat in public places in this game which they called the lying down game. And basically this was done by them in order to just shock people out in public. They would take photos of each other participating in this game and upload them to a Facebook page they created back in 2007, and this Facebook page was simply titled The Lying Down Game. So over the years, this Lying Down Game Facebook page would accrue a small following of people who also participated in this Lying Down Game challenge, and they would post their own photos of them doing the Lying Down Game. So obviously, this is the precursor to what we know as modern planking. It all started with these two kids from the UK. And the Lying Down Game would exist in this odd niche of Facebook for several years until something happened in 2011 that would basically cause this whole thing to go viral. In 2011, pro rugby player David Wolfman Williams, during a post-goal celebration, ran down the field and assumes a position we are all very familiar with today. Just for a moment here, he planks in front of nearly 14,000 people. And Wolfman Williams' team would go on to win this particular game, and the hype and bizarre post-goal celebration that Wolfman did sort of inspired Australians to take it amongst themselves to replicate what Wolfman did, starting the actual planking fad itself. So the lying down game was started in UK, but the Australians weren't having any of that. They were the ones who coined the phrase planking. So planking quickly caught on with Australian youths, and there was an official Facebook page that gained almost 130,000 fans within the first week of its creation. That original Facebook page established the rules of planking. And here are the rules according to that official Facebook page. 1. You must always lay face down, ensuring your face remains expressionless for the duration of the plank. 2. Your legs must remain straight and together with toes pointed. 3. Your arms must be placed by your side, held straight and fingers pointed. 4. You must make it known that you are planking. Saying "I'm planking" usually gets this across. Sternly announcing it will ensure a good result. 5. Your safety should always be considered. Properly thought through planking procedures should always go to plan. Never put yourself at undue risk. 6. Every plank that is captured must be named. So with the official planking rule set established, this trend really started to take off in early 2011, and it wouldn't be long before this trend escaped Australia and went worldwide. This is where you start seeing people uploading their pictures of them planking onto the internet, and I remember I had some friends in high school who were definitely advocates of planking, but it goes without saying this thing was taken off. And in accessory to people organically making this meme/trend pop off, you also had celebrities sort of co-signing this trend trend by planking themselves. I mean, there are a few notable examples that I'll list off here. You would find a photo of Katy Perry planking on a yacht, numerous photos of Justin Bieber planking, and hell, even Chris Brown beat everybody to the punch with his own planking photo. Actress Rosario Dawson planked live on Jimmy Fallon, and at this point it seemed like 2011 was definitely going to be the year of the plank. Thousands upon thousands of users would go to submit their own personal versions of the plank online, but as time went on, the process of one-upping the other plankers would begin to pose a problem. See, it wouldn't be long until people were placing themselves in extremely dangerous situations in order to get a juicy plank off that no one had ever done before. And in May of 2011, this whole planking fad would take a bizarre twist because of this. On May 25th, planking would go from this innocent fad to something much more controversial when a news story broke about 20-year-old Australian man, Acton Beale, who fell to his death from a 7th floor balcony while attempting to plank off the balcony railing.
Australian police say a man who plunged 7 floors to his death from an apartment balcony was taking part in an internet craze called planking.
My understanding was that he had put his feet outside of the balcony and was preparing to lay on the balcony rail, and he overbalanced and fell to his death.
Authorities say the man had previously been charged with trespassing after a photo of him planking on the trunk of a police car popped up on the internet.
So it had certainly escalated to a point where people were willing to risk it all to plank. This resulted in the Australian Prime Minister at the time issuing a warning to those participating in planking. Quote, "Focus has to be on keeping yourself safe first." And the Queensland opposition and the state's police had called for people to stop participating in the fad. And on the same day that Acton Beale had fallen from the balcony, the police had spotted another man who was planking on a rail line in front of an oncoming train. This guy wasn't hit from the train, but he was definitely pulled away and talked some sense into by police. It's funny the parallels you see when talking about these participatory viral trends. I harken back to the FHRITP video with people losing their jobs by repeating the phrase in public, but in this case you have people willing to risk their lives in order to get some social media clout. Oy vey. So aside from the physical danger involved with planking, another bit of controversy would emerge, more so questioning it being socially problematic. On July 6th, rapper Scammy stated on Twitter, planking was a way to transport slaves on ships during the slave trade, and it's not funny. Educate yourselves. Which such a statement is obviously preposterous. It would only hold any weight if that's what the originators had in mind when they did the first plank, but that's not the case at all, and this is just ridiculous, but it keeps getting weirder. But despite the insanity, that narrative actually began to pick up steam with social media outlets sort of co-signing his opinion. It was even spread to the point that Marcus Redeker, a professor at University of Pittsburgh and author of The Slave Ship, A Human History, put out this statement. To plank was not necessarily a verb used by slave ship merchants and captains, Redeker said in an email, but the planks of the lower deck are precisely where millions of Africans were forced to lie and sleep on the middle passage, in conditions of utter horror that defy description. So Mr. Redeker was definitely reaching hard here, basically saying that those who have named this fad planking, it's somehow problematic because at one point during the slave trade, African Americans were forced to lie flat in terrible conditions on planks. There's not a connection there, homie, but we'll keep going. So the next bit of drama occurred in July of 2011 involving a riot that took place there. A mob gathered outside of the Grauman's Chinese Theater in LA for the premiere of the documentary Electronic Daisy Carnival Experience, which is a documentary about an annual electronic music festival. When the crowd became too large, people began spilling into the street and police were called onto the scene to control the increasingly chaotic situation. During the standoff, a group of fans planked in a row in front of the police in order to protest their intervention. So I guess at this point, planking had become a legitimate form of protest, but the cross-up with protest and planking doesn't end here. You would have one of the most bizarre cross-ups with politics and planking occur in July of 2011. In the Philippines, it had become popular for students to use planking as a form of protest at campus rallies. Authorities, however, didn't feel like planking was a legitimate form of protest and considered it a dangerous act. So Filipino lawmaker Winston Castelo filed a bill called the Anti-Planking Act of 2011, a bill which essentially threatened punishment for the use of planking in protest and would make it an arrestable offense. This is definitely one of the wildest bills ever proposed, I would imagine. But this proposal would make Castello a laughingstock across media outlets worldwide, and the ridiculous Anti-Planking Act would never get signed into law. So the summer of 2011 was definitely when planking was most in vogue. It had seen all of its largest controversy in this time span, and as the year began to go on, by the time winter had come around, the trend had pretty much died out. Of course, you had regular everyday people uploading their own planks from time to time, but no large controversies really emerged after that summer. Look, I can't remember a time where I actually planked, but I'm sure some of you guys know someone who did a planking photo at one point. I mean, this thing was extremely popular. But those are the big highlights of the planking fad, starting off with 2 young kids and ending up as this worldwide trend. Let me know what you guys think about the planking fad in the comments section, and this has been another episode of NETROSPECTIVE. Make sure you check out my friends over at Cool Shirts. They got some dope ass winter wear. 10% off code in the description box. And thanks to the patrons, I appreciate you guys supporting me. Wavy Web Surf out. Peace.